They welcomed her with smiles, but behind closed doors, she became their prisoner. This is the story of a young woman who married into a wealthy British family, a family that looked perfect to the world, but hid a darkness no one could imagine. And how, against all odds, she fought back and took her life back. Her name was Amara, a kind, intelligent, and hopeful woman. She met Daniel during her postgraduate studies in London. Daniel was charming, polite, soft-spoken, the kind of man every woman dreams of. He came from a wealthy and respected British family, a family known for power, influence, and prestige. At first, everything felt like a fairy tale. Flowers, dinner dates, endless promises, and when he proposed, she said yes without hesitation. But what Amara didn't know was that she wasn't just marrying Daniel. She was marrying into a family that would soon destroy her peace. After the wedding, Amara moved into the family estate, a massive mansion outside London. Cold, silent, beautiful, but lifeless. Daniel's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Whitmore, welcomed her with polite smiles, but their eyes told a different story. At first, it was subtle. Small comments. Are you sure you understand how things work here? You'll need to adjust. You're not used to this lifestyle. Amara brushed it off. She wanted to be accepted. She tried harder, cooked, cleaned, smiled, stayed quiet, but nothing was ever enough. Soon, the kindness disappeared. Mrs. Whitmore began controlling everything. What Amara wore, what she ate, where she went, even who she spoke to. You don't need friends outside this family. You're part of us now. Her phone calls were monitored, her movements restricted. And Daniel, the man she loved, began to change. He became distant, silent, cold. Every time she tried to speak up, he would say, "Just do what my mother says." That's when Amara realized she wasn't a wife. She was trapped. The emotional abuse turned into something worse. She was humiliated, constantly criticized, called ungrateful, tasteless, not good enough for this family. They made her feel small, worthless, invisible. Sometimes they would lock her out of family gatherings, even inside the same house. She ate alone, cried alone, lived alone, in a house full of people. And Daniel, he watched and did nothing. One night, everything changed. Amara overheard a conversation. Mrs. Whitmore speaking to Daniel. "She's not one of us. She was a mistake. We need to fix this." And then, words that shattered her completely. "We'll make her leave, one way or another." That night, Amara didn't sleep. She didn't cry. For the first time, she felt something else. Not fear, not sadness, but clarity. She realized if she didn't fight, she would lose herself forever. Amara began to plan, quietly, carefully. The day finally came. The day Amara would face them, not in silence, her hands slightly trembling, but her eyes, steady, focused, unbreakable. On one side sat the Whitmores, cold, composed, untouched by guilt. Mrs. Whitmore, with that same subtle smirk, as if this was just another game she intended to win. Mr. Whitmore, sitting between two worlds, his family, and the woman he once promised to protect. Amara's lawyer stood up, calm, confident, precise. "This is not just a case of a broken marriage. This is a case of control, manipulation, and psychological abuse." The room fell silent, every word heavy, deliberate. This young woman was stripped of her freedom, her dignity. Amara sat still, but inside, her heart was racing, because for the first time, the Whitmore's lawyer stood up, sharp, cold, calculated. "This is nothing but exaggeration, a desperate attempt to gain sympathy and money." He turned toward Amara, eyes narrowed. "Where is the proof?" Silence. Heavy silence, the kind that makes your chest tighten. Mrs. Whitmore leaned slightly forward, almost enjoying the moment, because she believed there was nothing Amara could do. That's when it happened. Amara slowly looked at her lawyer and nodded, a signal, a decision. No turning back. Her lawyer stepped forward. "We have everything." The courtroom shifted. Energy changed. Recordings, messages, photos, hidden truths, finally brought into the light. The audio played. Mrs. Whitmore's voice echoed through the courtroom. "She's not one of us. We'll make her leave." Gasps. Whispers, shock spreading across the room. Mr. Whitmore's face tightened. For the first time, cracks appeared. Then came the moment no one expected. Daniel was called to the stand. He walked slowly, each step heavier than the last. He sat down, avoiding Amara's eyes. Do you support your family's actions? Silence. Long, painful silence. The entire courtroom held its breath. Then finally, he spoke, quietly. I failed her. Amara's eyes filled with tears. Not from pain this time, but from truth. I saw what was happening, and I did nothing. Mrs. Whitmore's expression changed instantly. Daniel. A warning. Sharp. Controlled. But it was too late. The illusion was broken. The perfect family image shattered. Piece by piece, truth stood in the open, unapologetic, unstoppable. The judge leaned forward, listening, watching, understanding, and for the first time, the power shifted. Not to wealth, not to influence, but to truth. Then, Amara stood up. No script, no fear, just her voice. I didn't come here for revenge. I came here to be free. Her voice trembled, but her words didn't. They took my silence as weakness, but silence was survival. She looked directly at them. No fear, no hesitation. And today, I take my life back. The courtroom waited. The decision, moments away. Would justice finally be served? Or would power win again? The courtroom stood still. No whispers, no movement. Just tension, hanging in the air. The judge adjusted his glasses, looked down at the documents, then up, at everyone, at Amara, at the Whitmores, and finally, he spoke. Slow, powerful tone. After reviewing all evidence presented, this court finds that the defendant engaged in sustained psychological and emotional abuse. A ripple moved through the courtroom. Shock. Disbelief. Reality setting in. The actions of the family were controlling, oppressive, and in clear violation of her rights and dignity. Mrs. Whitmore's face tightened. That confidence, gone. Completely. This court rules in favor of Amara. In addition, a restraining order is hereby granted, and full legal separation is approved effective immediately. Silence. Then, emotion. Amara didn't move at first, as if her body needed a moment to believe it, to accept it. Then slowly, tears filled her eyes. Not of pain, not of fear, but of freedom. For the first time, in a long time, she could breathe. Across the room, Daniel lowered his head. The weight of his silence, now louder than ever, and Mrs. Whitmore, she sat frozen, powerless. For the first time in her life, she had lost control. They tried to break her, but in the end, she broke free. The courtroom doors closed behind her, but for the first time, her life was just beginning. Amara stepped outside, into the open air. The sunlight touched her face, gently, like freedom, welcoming her home. For so long, she had lived in silence, in fear, in a world where her voice didn't matter. But now, she had taken it back. Not with anger, not with revenge, but with courage. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Amara began to rebuild. Piece by piece, she found a small apartment. Simple, but hers. No cold stares, no whispered control, just peace. She started working again, slowly, finding herself in the things she once loved, designing, creating, living, and something changed, not just around her, but within her. The woman who once sat alone at a long empty table became someone else, someone stronger, someone fearless, someone free. She didn't forget what happened, but she refused to let it define her, because survival was never the end of her story. It was the beginning of her power. Sometimes, the place you thought was your forever was only a lesson to teach you how to choose yourself. And this time, she chose freedom.